Good morning. My name is Ken Claiborne, and I'm a member of the board of the trustees of this congregation. Welcome to all of you. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community, encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual spiritual and ethical growth, celebrating diversity, and promoting a just and sustainable world. If you would like to learn more about this fellowship, please look at our website at uufe.org and join us after the service for coffee hour. For the listening enjoyment of all, please, we ask that you take the time to turn off your cell phones and pagers or turn them to stun. Also, if you need hearing support, please ask for help at the sound desk. They've got hearing devices for you. Thank you. Oh, Joan's pointing at this. Just a second. Announced Sunday 12/4. This room will be cleaned next week, so after enjoying the postlude at the end of the service, please pick up the hymnals and stack the chairs against the walls. If you haven't done it before, just follow someone who has, and you'll figure it out. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Judy Darnell, and I'm here with your community life. And today is Mitten Tree Day, so be sure to join us at coffee hour when we will begin decorating the mitten trees. The trees will be in the gathering place until the end of the month, so if you forgot to bring a contribution today, there is plenty of time. At the end of the month, we will contribute the warm mittens, gloves, scarves, caps, and whatever else we collect to the women's shelter here in Elkhart. We donated more than 100 items last year, and I'm sure we can match that this year too. Another important announcement. Try as we might, there was an error in this month's focus. The Christmas Day dinner will be held at 1 p.m. and not at 10 a.m., but 1 p.m. And Laura Snow has more information about this event, so you can talk to her about what you can bring or whatever, whatever she needs to tell you. The UUA has announced that registration is open for General Assembly. This important event runs from June 21st to 25th in Pittsburgh and will be online and in person. Ken Claiborne reports that there is money in the budget to help defray costs of attendance for delegates, and it is important that we have a delegate this year since there is discussion going on about changing our second principal. More information is available at the UUA.org, or rather UUA.org. So last week's attendance was 64 adults and children, and the offering will be shared with Church Community Services. This week's offering will go to our sustainability fund, which helps defray the costs of maintaining our building and grounds. And now I will collect my fan club and we will go. Oh yes, pick up your bylaws. They're in that little tote on the Ivy Island. Mike snuck through there and handed me that one for us. So this is the time to know what's in there so that when we have our congregational meeting next month that you can say, I want to understand this better, or I can, this needs to be changed, or whatever arguments you can come up with. The board is willing to entertain them gladly. Okay, now I will collect my fan club and we will go back and talk about Hanukkah today. So we'll see you later.
We ring our gong 3 times, once for those who came before us and made a place for us. Once for all of us who are here now. And once for those that will come after us and build on the dream. The chalice lighting today is by Paul Stephen Dodenhoff. For this 1 hour, Spirit of Life, we let go. For this 1 hour, may we let go of our anxieties, our fears, our anger, our self-doubts, our regrets, our petty grievances, and our distractions. If only for this 1 hour, let the flame of this chalice burn them from our hearts and minds and light our way to peace and serenity for this 1 holy hour. And now, if you will join me in reading or reciting the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. And now I would like to invite Lori Twiddell to share with us a morning musing.
There's been a public survey in this country of what people fear most, and number 1 was public speaking. So I guess I'm a very courageous person. And number 2 was death. So I guess I don't fear death, since I don't fear public speaking. Every Christmas season, I like to remind myself of this reading. It was part of a service over 30 years ago here in this room. And the author is unknown, so I'd like to share it with you now. If we fill our lives with things and yet more things, if we feel we must fill every moment that we have with activity, when will we have the time to make the long, slow journey across the burning desert, as did the wise men? Or sit and watch the stars, as did the shepherds? Or brood over the coming of the child, as did Mary? For each of us, there is a desert to travel, a star to discover and follow, and a being within ourselves to bring to life.
Thank you, Lori. That was lovely. And I had heard along the same lines about public speaking, that at a funeral, most people would choose to be the one in the casket than the one that had to deliver the eulogy. So at this time, we'll collect our offering, and it's going to be for our sustainability fund. And we want to give generously and help the church survive. Thank you.
Would you stand if you're willing and able and join in singing 125? From the crush of wealth and
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Marva. I am very happy to again invite to our pulpit one of our favorite speakers, the Reverend Dr. Jimmy Clifton.
You know, I'm glad I'm not the kind of person who gets a complex, because it seems every time I speak, it's the day to clean the church. And I don't believe in coincidences. Thank you for having me back. As you know, I always like to begin with a joke. And I have several. Since the message is about baggage, I'd like to tell a few. At an airport, one of my friends suggested we disguise ourselves as luggage. I said, let's not get carried away. Friend of mine works as a baggage handler at the airport, but used to be a lawyer. He kept losing cases. I know an elephant who refused to travel by air because he didn't want to leave his trunk in the baggage department. Worried that the airline might lose my bag with all the sausages I bought during my trip to Germany, that would be the WURST case scenario. I've started dating a shopaholic. She comes with a lot of baggage. I called my ex Delta because they had the same amount of baggage as the airline. Where do you put your emotional baggage? In a briefcase. Briefcase. One more. It's said that when Fidel Castro passed away, he ended up at the pearly gates. And St. Peter said, I'm sorry, Mr. Castro, you came to the wrong place. You were sent to the wrong place. So down he goes. And the devil greets him and says, Mr. Castro, welcome. I'd like to show you your quarters. Castro says, hey, wait a minute, I can't go right now. I got to go back up there and get my baggage. And Satan says, that's okay. I'll send the 2 demons up there to get it for you. So the 2 demons get to the pearly gates. Jesus sees them and says, oh my, Castro's only been in hell 5 minutes and we're already getting refugees. So, we're going to talk about emotional baggage today and what to do with it. But before we do that, I want to read a line from a book by the Unitarian minister Forrest Church in his book, The Cathedral of the World, A Universalist Theology. I find myself guided in my own thinking more and more by paradox. My definition of the devil, for instance, is evil disguised as good. My definition of angels, messengers of the divine. Is goodness disguised in ordinary encounters or wrapped in brown paper? I try to be most suspicious of my finest actions, to be most wary of my most compelling thoughts, and always try to find something redemptive in the thoughts and actions of others. What I like about that is that he uses the word paradox, because I think not just this time of the year, but every year during this time of the year, I see us entering into a season of paradox. We're supposed to be entering into a season of merriment and joy and happiness and excitement and exhilaration. Joy to the world. Merry Christmas. Season's greetings. Happy Christmas. Happy holidays. People running around with smiles on their faces. Everybody excited. And yet, here comes the paradox. In this time of supposed merriment and enjoyment and fulfillment and excitement, there are millions of Americans who do not like this time of the year. And we hear it all the time, don't we? I hate the holidays. I hate Christmas. I'll be glad when it's over. I don't look forward to this time of the year. What a paradox. On the one hand, there's joy and excitement by some. On the other hand, the total detestment of this time of the year. So we have to ask the question this morning, why is that? We know that during this time of the year, many people are not excited because somewhere in their lives during this time of the year, there was some type of trauma that they may have suffered, some type of loss, something that went awry in their lives. And this time of the year brings back those unpleasant memories. And so what we do with that is we bottle those things up in negative emotions, and we hold on to those, and we never release those. We never let them go. We carry that emotional baggage throughout the year, and during this particular time of the year, when they hear people talk about joy and merriment, and talk about how wonderful this time of the year is, they don't understand that because they have this emotional baggage that keeps them from being joyous, keeps them from being happy, keeps them from enjoying the good times of the season. And we need to understand and learn how to deal with that emotional baggage that so many of us carry throughout the year. But before we do that, there's a more, can't think of my word, there's a more pressing problem. Before we deal with the emotional baggage, we need to deal with a more pressing problem, the main problem for many of us that don't find joy and excitement during this time of the year. And that's those feelings of being overwhelmed. How many of us right here this morning can admit and can say that we feel overwhelmed at times during this time of the year? So much to do, so little time in which to do it. So many people grabbing at us, pulling at us, tugging at us. Do this, get this done, finish this, start this, get my new list. And we just get exhausted, and we get tired, and we get weary because we feel so overwhelmed. So before we deal with the emotional baggage, we need to deal with those feelings of overwhelm. Because if we're overwhelmed, we're not going to want to deal with baggage. We're already overwhelmed enough. Don't talk to me about baggage. Those feelings of overwhelm can be dealt with by finding a way to have better time management in our lives. How many of us this morning can say, I have good time management. I manage my time well? From the studies, the things I hear, very few people, especially during this time of the year, engage in really good time management because they want to get everything done all at once. And that's just not the way to do it. So we have to learn how to prioritize. Not everything is of tremendous and great importance on our list of things to do. There are some things on our list to do during this time of the year that we can put off a little bit. We can move down the list. We can look at our list of all the things we want to do during this time of the year and move and rearrange that list. and put what's most important. And it's not necessarily what's most important to other people. It's what's most important to us. Because we are the ones who are going to feel that overwhelm. We are the ones who are going to become weary in well-doing. We are the ones who are going to end up saying, I don't like this time of the year. So prioritize your list. When I engage in counseling with people, I get a lot of people talk about feeling overwhelmed because they don't have good time management and they don't know how to prioritize. And I say, when you go to bed at night and think about all the things today that you didn't get done, what really did you get done? And in most cases, they didn't tackle the big chores first. They tackle the small things. So they're not satisfied with their accomplishments because they think about all the things they didn't get done, the most important things. So do the important things first. And if you don't have time to do the smaller things, then that's okay. And then we don't have to get everything done. That's another problem we have. We want to get everything done. We don't spread things out. It has to be done by this date. Has to be done by this time. We don't have to do everything. Stop and think right now some of the things you want to get done this holiday season. Maybe some things you want to get done today. Are all of those things really that important? And the magnitude of everything else that we deal with in life. Are there not some things that you can say right now, I don't have to get that done today. I don't have to get that done this week. I may not even have to get that done this year. Because we do that too, don't we? We cram everything we want to do into one season, 1 month, 1 week. That's impossible. And then, there are times in life when it's okay to procrastinate. What we've heard over and over again, don't procrastinate. There are times, especially during this time of the year, during the times of the year when we feel overwhelmed, that it is okay to procrastinate. You know, generally people procrastinate because of fear of failure and talk about paradoxes. Fear of success, fear of failure, and fear of success. But during this time of the year, there's no failure, no success. It's just okay to put things off. Again, because not everything has to get done. Stop and think right now, what are some things that you can say to yourself right now? I can put that off. I can do that tomorrow. I can do that next week. I can do that next month. I have the time. We think we don't, but we do. And then, probably the most important part. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say no. That's a real struggle that we have. We want to say yes to everybody and to everything. And the reason is that according to William Backus, Lutheran minister and licensed psychologist, according to Backus, the reason we don't want to say no is that we don't want people to not like us. He says the central theme in anxiety is worrying about whether people are going to like us, approve of us, or love us. That's why we struggle with saying no. We don't want to be disliked. It's okay to be disliked. You know, here's the thing about wanting everybody to like us and love us, and if we're honest, we don't like and love everybody. Right? Nobody wants to admit that. But we don't. So why should we expect everybody to like and love us? So deal with those feelings of overwhelm using these steps. And then we can tackle the emotional baggage. And there's so many of them, aren't there? But the main ones, I think, especially during this time of the year: guilt, anger, and regret. I think that was read a little bit this morning, the regret and the anger. We struggle with being happy during this time of the year because of some of the guilt that's accumulated in our lives over the year. Guilt because we have done something to someone we feel bad about. Guilt because we may have broken a promise. Guilt because we may have in some way violated our conscience. Guilt because in some way we may have violated the law. Not big. Running a red light maybe, but guilt nonetheless. And we carry that guilt with us. The main reason we carry that guilt with us is because we feel so bad about what we did. We're punishing ourselves. That's what carrying that guilt is. It's punishing ourselves because we feel so bad about that. But then sometimes we engage in what's called false guilt. There's real guilt and there's false guilt. And the difference is the word intentionality. If we haven't intentionally done anything to harm anyone, it's a false guilt. That may take some time to process. That may take some time to reach the inner workings of our minds and souls. That if we haven't intentionally done anything to harm anyone, the guilt that we feel is a false guilt. And some of that false guilt comes from other people placing guilt trips on us. So we need to be aware of that. And the second piece of emotional baggage we need to deal with is the anger. That anger that begins somewhere in the year and we just don't want to let it go. Anger at what somebody may have said to us or done to us. And we talked about anger once before. In many cases, it's not so much what somebody says to us or does to us that we get angry. It's the fact that we can't make them not say those things. We can't make them not do those things. It's a control issue. Anger. How do we deal with it generally? Many of us suppress it, just push it down. Very unhealthy. Cause all kinds of physical problems. Ulcers, colitis, migraines. Suppression is not good. We hear people all the time, I don't get angry. Yes, you do. You just don't express it. You're pushing it down. And sooner or later, somewhere along the line, we're going to explode. Then many of us deal with it by being aggressive, by yelling and screaming and attacking, either verbally or physically. Throwing things, kicking things, always getting into arguments, always being disagreeable. An aggressive way of dealing with it. Then there's a passive-aggressive way. Kind of like, well, we're not really bothered by that. Twice, you're going to the store, ask your wife, partner, would you like me to bring you something? Would you bring me such and such? You come back and you don't have it. I forgot. No, you didn't. This is your passive-aggressive way of dealing with something you're angry about with your partner. The healthy way to deal with anger and to get rid of that emotional baggage is to be assertive. I don't like what you just said to me. I don't like what you did. Would you please listen to me and try to understand why I don't like it? No yelling, no screaming, no pointing fingers. Simply stating how we feel, asking the other person to be respectful to hear us out. That creates a conversation. And we all want to be involved in conversation, don't we? Nobody likes to argue. Well, I'm sure some do, but generally speaking, nobody really likes to argue or to be hostile or bitter. Work out the anger through the assertiveness process. I understand how you feel. Please listen how I feel. And then we have regret. We carry that through. We regret something that we may have done. And we live with that regret. We may have done something to someone intentionally or unintentionally, and then we just regret it. And we go around beating ourselves up about it. We engage in that negative self-talk. We call ourselves names. I'm such an idiot. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? I'm such a dummy. Stop beating ourselves up and start thinking about what can we do differently the next time? How can we speak to this person differently the next time? How can we treat this person differently the next time? And another reason we deal with regret is we think about all of the bad decisions and all of the bad choices that we make. And then we go off in this fantasy land. Oh, if I would have done it this way, I wouldn't be here today. If I could have done that, I would be doing this now. That is very much a waste of energy. Rather than engaging in regret, engage in a conversation with ourselves about how can we make positive changes? How can we be more proactive? How can we make better choices? And when we do all of this, we can come to a point in our lives during this time of the year that when somebody says Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, we can feel the merriment. We can feel the happiness. We can experience the joy because we have learned how to effectively deal with those feelings of overwhelm, and we now have been able to release that emotional baggage. And it is baggage. You see people at the airport carrying that baggage, carrying that luggage. Look at how much they toil with that, how much that weighs on them. And that's what emotional baggage does to us. It weighs on us, weighs us down. But we don't have to feel fooled with that anymore. We can effectively deal with it. And I would encourage you to try to do that. Try to follow these steps this year if you're feeling overwhelmed or if you feel like you're dragging emotional baggage into this season. Amen. Oh, thank you.
Oh, there I am. Jimmy has agreed to entertain comments or questions. Does anybody have anything to say?
Hey, thanks for being here again with us.
Thank you for having me. I
And,
always appreciate it.
Always remember, don't sweat the small stuff because it's all small stuff.
And we struggle remembering that, don't we? Because in the grand scheme of things, it really is small. Thank you very much.
The couple times that I've heard you speak, you really get me thinking about things that just happen randomly. And one thing that I thought about was, I'm not worried about what other people are thinking about me.
Good for you.
What I'm worried about is what the story is in my head that they're saying. And I think that that's what gets a lot of people down, is they always make the situation way worse. Instead of just going and having a conversation, they let that meddle in their head. And that's where all that baggage comes from.
That's true. And that's a good point. Because most of the time when we do feel distressed, disillusioned, upset, disappointed, it's not so much the situation, it's our thought about the situation. So we need to reframe and get a different perspective on things. So thank you.
Anyone else have?
I wanted to add one thing on your opening on time management. not to for myself to sound defensive, but believe it or not, there are people that manage time differently than the way other people manage time, and conflict can and does happen between individuals because their time management is better than my time management. And the other thing to add to that is that in consideration of multitasking, there are people who criticize those that can't multitask. Multitasking is fine for some, but not necessarily for all.
And those are good points, because what I'm hoping people will do when I give a message and break it down into certain points is to take those points and make it work for you individually. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You make so many good points. I got sidetracked thinking about something you had said, and I missed what you said about regrets over past, how we beat ourselves up and the regrets we have over things we've done. And I would appreciate if you could repeat that.
Yeah, when we
Thank
think
you.
about things that we did that we feel like were wrong or unjust, rather than focusing on that, we focus on how can we do that differently in the future? How can we speak to people differently? How can we encourage people differently? How can we treat people differently? How can we make better choices? We want to learn from those. We don't want to let those beat us up and drag us down. Oh, thank you.
I have the answer to that.
Well, you want to just come right up?
Remember when you were young and your mom said, if you get angry, count to 10. And if you're still angry, count to 10 again. And I remember reading an article in an old issue of Psychology Today where they did a study that said that if you express your anger right away, it only makes you angrier. And so your mom was right to tell you to count to 10 before you say something, because you will probably regret what you said if you said it in anger. That's the answer.
Yeah, you want to take a deep breath, that's for sure. Not too deep.
I'm glad that you talked about time management. I have a healthcare person that comes and sees me 3 times a week. And the best quality he has is that I have certain tasks I need to get done, and he knows what those are. And he can somehow or other, I don't know how, he can guide me from one task to another so that by the time his shift is over, all the tasks are done. I don't know how he got that skill. I don't have it nearly as much as he does.
I'm sure it was over a period of time and learning and making adjustments along the way and figuring out what worked for him. Thank you.
I was going to add to what you said, Oksana. My mother always said, today, may my words be tender and sweet. For tomorrow, I may have to eat them.
Okay, I would like also to go back to what Oksana said. Mark Twain, I can't remember the exact words, but Mark Twain said something on the lines, when angry, count to 10. When very angry, swear.
Okay.
I won't recommend that from the pulpit. But lay ministers can say whatever they want.
Okay, I think.
And
Michael?
Mark Twain was a Unitarian, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wait. All right.
Hi there. I want to talk about multitasking and the amazing way that skill vanishes as time goes on. And the reality of having to say, no, I can't do that. And and knowing that you used to be able to, but you honestly can't, and hoping everybody will believe that. Or not having to say, well, it's just my age or what have you. And that's a hard one. When I think of feeding a room full of kids with a baby in one arm and putting the dog out with the other and getting a phone call and doing it all. And now it takes a long time to cook an egg.
Thank you. See, we had a dog, several dogs in our marriage, and lately we just said, we're just gonna get a cat. We don't have to put it out. It takes care of itself.
Well, I just think this time of year is always overwhelming because, people set such high expectations on themselves to buy the perfect gift, to, cook the perfect meal, to, have the perfect decorated house. I mean, so, but what I find with myself in far as procrastination is that sometimes if I just get started, then I find joy in that, moving forward and accomplishing it. But if I procrastinate and then just don't even get started, it just, kind of festers that darn it all, I didn't finish it, I didn't do it. And, then I start, kind of going through that anger part about why didn't you do this when you should have. But, if I can just get started, then I move forward.
And I like that because that could be another point. Don't focus on what you didn't get done. Focus on what you did get done. So thank you.
With giving in the holiday season, something that we have taught our children growing up is nothing is replaceable from the heart, but everything is replaceable from the store. You don't have to spend that money. You have to spend that time. And if more people could focus on the time over the dollar, then we would be closer together.
Yeah, it goes back to that old adage, I guess, quality over quantity. Same with gift giving, quality, not quantity. Just the fact you gave a gift, that should be sufficient.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you again for
Appreciate
having
it.
me. I guess I'll see you on the 24th.
No, you'll see us for the benediction.
There's no way to get over on her, is there? She's very sharp. Okay, so, well, I would challenge. No, not
No,
yet.
we have a hymn first.
Oh.
So you may sit down now.
See, that's what happens when there's a lapse when you speak.
Yeah. Down and up again, thank you.
Like we've been doing, let's stand for the hymn, but let's remain standing for the benediction and then seated while the postlude is played on the piano, okay? Please stand if you're able and willing. 323.
In the 5th chapter of Galatians, Paul talks about bearing one another's burdens. So I would challenge you this morning. When you see people this week who feel overwhelmed, do what you can to encourage them, to lift them up. Do what you can to help take whatever load or burden they have off their hand, to lift that burden. I would challenge you, if you find people among you as you leave, as you spend this week out, who are carrying emotional baggage, share with them how you were able to stop being overwhelmed and how you were able to deal effectively with your own emotional baggage. Bear you one another's burdens. Amen.